Welcome, crackers and crackettes, to the podcast you never thought you needed. And you were absolutely right. Two-Spirit Penguin here. Today we have a very special episode, a review of Diablo IV, and I just wanted to make a small note before you get into it that this was actually recorded 2 months ago, around when the game first came out. This is not a review of the current state of the game, as in Season 1 Diablo 4. This is a Season 0 launch day review, so please take this review as such, and do not blame us for the shit show the game has become since. In addition, there will be no non-spoiler section in today's review. So if you are looking for a non-spoiler review, I highly suggest you check out our YouTube exclusive preview of Diablo 4. And while we call it a preview, it is essentially a review of the beta. That all being said, on to the show. Put on your big Hollywood sunglasses and light the torch, because it's cellar time. Welcome to the Crack Cellar, as the prophecy was once buried underneath of an abandoned church in Tristram. I'm Two-Spirit Penguin Daniel.
And I'm Punished Broadcaster.
And today, Broadcaster, we have D-Day is upon us. It has come and gone, and we have both beat this demonic game. And we already kind of did a review of Chapter 1.
We beat the demonic possession of Blizzard Entertainment.
Yes, there was a bit of an exorcism here. I do agree with that. They got all the Pixar out of Diablo, which is a beautiful thing. We already did a review of Chapter 1, so I'm thinking we just skip that. And if you want to hear our thoughts on Chapter 1, go back to our YouTube exclusive preview. Let's just start at Act 2. You think Act 2 was better or worse than Act 1? Because I thought it was the weakest.
And Act 1 end, you know? I mean, what are we talking here?
Well, after you take out that chick's mom, I don't even remember her name. It's funny, she's like the main character of the game,
yeah.
but I can never remember her name because she really isn't.
Nyrell.
Yeah, there we go. Her mom. That's like
the character that we're supposed to care about for some fucking reason.
Yeah.
Actually, this game had so many, first of all, Diablo is female.
The
That's
future
what this
is
game,
female, and so is the Force.
I was kind of blindsided. I'm kind of used to it nowadays. I'm like, all right, there's more women in things where I'm not trying to sound sexist, not where they shouldn't be, but where they typically aren't. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of used to it. But Diablo, really threw me off with how much. I think it was 90% of the people you interact with are female in Diablo. The blacksmiths are female, the armor smiths, the potions, the fucking a lot of the the main NPCs you interact with for quests are female witches, and other the leader of I forget the Holy Order or whatever, Savra or whatever, Zavra. It was crazy. It was jarring to me.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to the point is
Lorath really keeps the testosterone under his umbrella in this game. If it weren't for Lorath, it would just be estrogen everywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
Characters.
And I thought it was just random generation for me, but I don't know if you noticed, but when you first start this game up, you have the 5 characters in front of you. How many of those characters were generated as female in front of you when you started?
I think all of them.
Yeah, it was like that for me. It was like that for our brother. It was like that for Alex. So it's kind of funny just to see how that. I'll leave it to me. I'll point that out every fucking time.
Yeah. For sure. I think a lot of that is compensation for the whole sex
Right.
harassment lawsuit bullshit or been surrounding Blizzard forever, which by the
Wasn't that
way,
shit even holding up in court?
no, it's not at all. And by the way, every fucking company was doing that shit up until woke
Yeah.
turned everything upside down. Like it wasn't just Blizzard. So if you're gonna be all high and mighty, oh, I'm gonna boycott Blizzard because they did this 10 years ago. You better boycott everything, son, because it's all like that, not just fucking Blizzard.
Yeah.
Jesus
I don't know.
Christ.
I guess back to the point, Act 2 was just as memorable as Act 1, and Act 3 and Act 4. And Act 5 and 6 were actually pretty cool. They kind of sped the game up a little bit, but yeah. I guess just
Interesting. Okay. So I thought Act 1 was decent. I thought Act 2 was worse. I thought it was the worst act in the game, personally.
Act
just
2 probably was the worst act in the game.
It felt super boring and kind of just like
The one where you meet Donan.
yeah, and it's that whole thing with introduce, and I get because he plays like a central role in the ending of the game and his son and all that, but it's just like
It does have one of the coolest boss fights in the game, though.
yeah, and that's what I was about to say. It ends well. Astaroth is one of the probably my second or third favorite boss in the entire game. He's really good.
He also encapsulates what I think is completely wrong with this game. Something really cool looking and awesome and fresh, and you're like, it's just done and over. It's like it's like an MCU Disney movie. It was like he was gone. His dog, like when you first run into his dog, that I think is the dog is based off of something, right? Like something like somebody's horse. Oh yeah, it was Donan's like favorite horse or something that the dog was bred off of. I forget how the lore went. It was something
I totally
like that.
missed this. I have no idea what you're talking about.
And so then you run into the dog, and then you fight him as a boss, and he escapes, and then eventually you run into Astaroth, and then you get the movie clip with him like on top of the dog, and you're like, all right, this guy looks fucking cool. He's probably one of the coolest things I've seen since the Primevals. Like, obviously he's going to be around, right? Wrong. Like, you're just fucking dead immediately. Like, this guy was way cooler than Lilith, and he was only on the screen for fucking like 30 seconds. Maybe he had 30 seconds of screen time, if that.
Yeah. That's kind of how this game is, though. It's really like wham bam, thank you, ma'am. They don't linger on shit much.
Yeah.
They
don't linger on anything.
No, I skipped a lot of side quests, so my interpretation of the game is going to be more direct than other people that are going to play it more horizontally and do all the side shit every time before they move on to the next zone. But it just felt like there was never like this thing where stuff built up. Like nothing really built up. It was just like boom, 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 boom. There was no like charging a Kamehameha wave. It was just a bunch of little Kai blasts constantly. Is like the way I'd put it for the DBZ fans out there. But there were definitely some good moments.
Yeah, there were definitely good moments, but I think the whole game just felt shallow overall. There's like a couple moments that stood out to me were when you and Lorath are sneaking into Elias's ritual. I think this is Act 3. You're sneaking into Elias's ritual where he's trying to use Thaisa to summon Ondariel. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So, and this is just a problem, and I think it's just a direction problem or something. Like, that movie clip starts with, you guys sneaking in on the ritual, and you're thinking, okay, something cool is about to happen, right? And it's only about 20 seconds long, and it starts with you guys sneaking in, and then switches to Lorath's perspective of getting close to Elias to get the kill on him. And instead of like any type of like significant moment happens, it just does a quick cut to Lorath somehow getting close enough to Elias to just stab him in the neck, and nothing. Like, Elias is like defenseless. Fucking, of course we find out that he's immortal, and like that's just his trick. He's like a pussy without being able to revive over and over, apparently. So then he just gets stabbed in the neck, and then the movie clip just ends. It's just like, that's just weird to me. I feel like when I played other Diablos, like every time there was a significant movie clip, shit happened. Like It was Telrasha getting binded with Baal in the tomb. It was Tyrael fucking throwing his sword at the world's stone. It was the original one was, the warrior shoving the crystal in his own fucking head. There's like, they were just really cool moments, and like every single time Diablo, and this was the first time I noticed it, was that ritual. Is every time they actually have movie clips, they just seem to be like the moments you'd rather just have in game, and then then there are other moments where you're like, that would have been cooler if that was the movie clip, like when Elias dies, for instance. Like you go through this whole thing of going through the dungeon, figuring out his secret, then confronting him, and there's a movie clip where you initially confront him and say pretty much, "Hey, yo, I got your finger, dog," and he looks at his finger and he's like, "Oh shit," and gets mad, right? And then you fight him. But the movie clip is high budget of you approaching him. Your helmet's off. You're confronting your enemy that you've been chasing for 3 acts, and your helmet's off so you can get a cool look at your character's face or whatever. And it's all high budget. And then you fight him, and then he dies. Right? You got to go track him down, and he's like in the swamp against the wall, all bloody, like, and he has a really cool ending speech. And then a crow bites his fucking head off and carries it away, and you're like, wouldn't that have been the cool Diablo movie clip to like have instead of that dumb, like, "Yo, Elias, we figured you out" movie clip? Which is, I just don't like. Where's the budget at for that? Who decided like that's where the money needs to be spent on that part of the script? It's like there's just a lot of moments like that for me.
That is probably a director problem. I think ultimately calls like that are going to fall on whoever the director of the game is, because they're going to decide which spots deserve the high quality CG cutscenes, the special Blizzard's secret sauce, as you will, that really created Blizzard's legend in PC gaming. Like, Blizzard always made great games, don't get me wrong, but the thing that made Blizzard like legendary on PC, starting in the early 90s, were their CG cutscenes. No one else did anything like it. It was crazy at the time, like just nuts what they used to do with CG compared to all the other PC game makers. Like no one else even came close. Now Blizzard doesn't even make the best CG. Like there's lots of developers that do better CG movies than Blizzard, and they don't do it as much either. Like they do it way less than they used to. So it is sort of like a core identity crisis with Blizzard. They should really find that self again in the mirror and bring it back. I will say though, in their defense, they did pick one spot to do a good cutscene. The one with the battle in hell.
That was the only cool one.
Yeah, that one, that I think that saved the game for me in a lot of ways. That was the coolest part of the game. That's where I really started to appreciate the game, is that moment in the game. Was that like Act 5 or was that 6? It was very much towards the end.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is let's talk about Lilith and Inarius and why we're supposed to give a fuck about them. Did I miss something? Did I miss like something in Diablo 3 where they were the love affair that started the Sanctuary? Was this all made up after the fact?
I don't know about. See, like I hear people tell me, "Oh no, this is a sequel to D3 because Lilith and Dariel, or whatever his name is, not Dariel,
Inarius.
They were in D3," and like I'll ask like where. I don't remember that shit. Like it's always like a weird dubious answer. It's like, oh well, this one spot, and it was in a text on the ground in a library or something. Yeah, like
they're citing a book, and I'm pretty damn sure it was written after the game.
I'm sure it was, dude, because I don't get a straight answer, and whenever I don't get a straight answer on something, I assume they're lying or just ignorant and don't realize they're lying.
Lies.
Yeah, so if we're the WikiLeaks fact checker group, we're gonna give this pants on fire.
Yeah, well, I mean, the only thing I remember from Diablo 3 was the fact that the heroes we played as were Nephilims, which were like these awakened humans that were half demon or what. Like, well, the kick. I think that like the thing was is you thought you were special or something because you were Nephilim and you were half demon, and then you figured out that all of the humans on Sanctuary are Nephilim, that Nephilims are humans are Nephilims, essentially. I think that was one of the big reveals. I could be wrong, because it's been a long time since I played that game, but the Nephilims was the orbiting theme of Diablo 3. You were a Nephilim. Nephilims are cool. They're the new hot thing in Diablo lore. And then in Diablo 4, I wasn't paying attention between anything in between. Now Lilith is mommy and Anarius is daddy. And like they seemed like the marriage has already happened and ended, and a lot of strife, and they're bitter, and now they're going to try to kill each other. And now it's just, you're starting from that point, them getting ready to kill each other. It just seems so like
no charge.
Again,
no charge,
shallow.
just the Kai blast wave.
Yeah, exactly. It's a super weak. I'm like, I don't know why I'm supposed to care about. Like, I'm not knocking the character. Well, I am knocking Anarius because he was super fucking lazy. Lilith was at least cool. Like, she actually took some thought to design. Anarius was literally a throwaway I'm not Tyrael clone. All right, and that was just fucking lazy. But
I actually liked Lilith a lot. I'm not a huge fan of like diversity hire female villains, so I was primed to not like Lilith as a character, but I found her to be very well written and interesting, and her boss fight was pretty good too.
Yeah, I also liked her problem, daddy issues. Like that was like, it was good. Like it was.
And dude, how sick was that at the very end when you got to the castle? That little like scene they give you, like you're in like, it's almost like you're in the middle of a dark forest in hell, and there's a haunted castle in front of you. Kind of reminds me of at the very end of the game where you get to Mephisto. Like that.
Oh, you're talking about the Church of Hatred.
Dude, dude. That like it reminded me.
Hatred, whatever it was.
It was like sort of like a Magus's castle from Chrono Trigger moment. I loved that shit.
Speaking of that,
Mephisto was great too as a character. I loved all of his interactions with the storyline.
I liked how they just gave, like, he deserved it. Like, after, like, 1 and 2 and then 3, like, Mephisto's just been shat on. Like, he got taken out in Diablo 2 in one quick boss fight and then never talked about again. So it was good to get him back in.
I will say, though, the Mephisto boss fight in D2 was really good. That's, like, my favorite boss fight from D2. So.
Yeah, it's also one of the best loot drops from what I hear from D2 experts. People still farm that boss to get the good shit.
Oh, man, all right.
Yeah, it's a good game. Like, well, I should say it was a good game until I heard you. Well, you told me the other day that the character I've been grinding on this whole time. No, not just the one character I've been grinding on. All of them are pointless, essentially.
Yeah.
Is like, what?
Every time they do a season, they shard off into a new shard and everything is left behind. And it's all still playable, only within the content of that shard. So season 0, only playable with season 0 content forever. It'll be the same with our season 1 characters. They'll only be playable in season 1 content. Now, the thing about it that's weird too is we don't really know what the face of this new content is. Like, they haven't given details on what the new content is. So for all we know, they're just going to like redo a couple of dungeons and call them new content, you know, like change some monsters around or add.
Have you done it? Have you done any of the end game?
I've done all the end game. I grinded main to almost level 60. I got to like the high 50s.
Okay. So you've done Hell Tides.
I have.
I think that's all there. Like, when I saw Hell Tides, I didn't really think too much of it. I was like, well, this is cool. But then when you told me about the seasons and stuff, and they going to do seasonal content that are exclusive to bound to the characters, it just made me think. I'm like, okay, so they're just going to put a skin on the map and switch enemies around and switch debuffs around and call it a day. You know, like there's no way they're going to give us a new map. This isn't a BR. They're not going to fucking take away Verdansk and give us whatever the hell that other map was in Call of Duty. I forget.
Yeah, they're being real secretive about what the new content's going to be. Real secretive. And that makes me nervous because that means it's either going to be really good or really bad, most likely.
I mean, it has to be nothing short of phenomenal to get people behind grinding a new ARPG character every 3 months. Like, there's not a lot of. I just don't think there are a lot of players out there willing to do that.
It totally
And
discourages alts too. Like there is no point in doing an alt in
yeah,
this game. You should do one character per season and then save your alt, quote unquote, for the next season. So it actually
yeah.
means something.
This is a brain dead system set up sheerly by maximizing monetary gain. And I don't know how they calculated people would actually like go along with it, because correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to pay $10 for the season. So you buy the game, you get your Eternal character you've been grinding this whole time. Then the actual season starts, which anybody that bought the digital deluxe or higher version gets the season with that included. But nonetheless, going forward, just to start season 2, you're gonna have to pay $10 to start playing Diablo again, essentially.
Yeah, like it's a weird scheme. There's no way around that. Like you can look at it as like a data scientist and you can slice this bitch up in a million pieces, and it's just really.
Isn't that like in a way like almost a hidden subscription fee?
Yeah, it's social what it is social engineering. All these game developers now have social engineering people that are just sitting there scheming ways to trick people into spending money when they don't want to, spending time when they don't want to. It's the science of suckering you in, and it taints what video games are a little bit, but it's just a Western thing mostly right now. If you notice, like, sure, Japanese games, Eastern games will have microtransactions, but when you look at like sort of the way their games are designed, they're still designed mostly around gameplay, not around tricky monetization tactics like all Western games are now.
Yeah.
Probably coming for all of us soon, though. Japan can only hold out so long.
Dude, what did you think about Donan's death? Do you remember?
Yeah, that was right before the end of the game. Like, that
funny, caught me off guard how bad that was.
That was the worst part of the game for me. It was so corny.
That took me out of it. I was just like, wait a minute. Can I rewind? What just happened there?
Yeah, and my game glitched out. Like, the only time I've experienced a bug in the retail version of the game was actually on that cutscene. And I went through the whole thing, and then after it was over, it like glitched out and logged my character out, and then I had to log back in and watch it again, or like, go through it again. So the second time, it made me realize even more how bad it was.
Yeah, like that really just came off like we don't know what to do with this character, and we want some type of emotional impact at the end of the game. So, stab.
Yeah, and you know that it's funny too, because like it's 90% female characters, but they still managed to kill off one of the few dudes in the game. I mean, they already killed his son, then they kill him. It's like all the people dying seem to be guys. Interesting.
Yeah.
Mephisto. Look at Mephisto.
Old drunk men are dead. Yep, Mephisto cucked.
Like all the like, there's very.
Not only was he cucked, he was cucked by one of the most annoying chicks with one arm.
Oh god! I know.
like, dude, come on.
I was so excited about the direction of the game story before that part, and then when I saw like the crumbs starting to come together and seeing what she was about to do, I'm like, oh no, don't do this bullshit. It pissed me off.
Blizzard, if there's anybody that could hear this, like, it would have been way easier and everyone would have loved it. You actually siding with Lilith, betraying Mephisto, banishing him further into the pits of hell or whatever, wherever he goes, and then eventually the Primeval's coming back. That would set up a way cooler storyline than you just going, oh, I'm cool enough to kill the main baddie. And like, it's just like, I get my cake and I eat it too storyline. It was just dumb. It was just like, okay, so you played Mephisto the fool, the master of manipulation, right? You played him the fool the whole time. and you beat his daughter's ass, who was actually trying to help you beat him the whole time, but you found a way to get both things done. You know, is it like, and then, I mean, I get it. Like, I'm saying this, and people are probably thinking, well, didn't you watch the end? Like, Nyrell is probably being manipulated by
that
Mephisto.
Depresses me more than anything, by the way.
Yeah.
Knowing Nyrell is his host. Fuck that.
Exactly. And and that's not even confirmed. Like, let's not rule out the Blizzard's inability for or ability, I should say, for poor storytelling. Like, everyone wants to default to good storytelling in their head and be like, oh, okay, so let's twist this. Let's try to make this good. Somehow Mephisto has manipulated Nyrell into actually doing what he wanted the whole time, and now they're on this journey to make Mephisto whole again, which was going to happen in the first place, but this way is better, and it was part of his plan the whole time, you know, type of thing. You like, see, the more you think about it, the more it doesn't make sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
The more thing that makes more sense to me, and this goes to the theme with every fucking thing that's made nowadays, is that Nyrell is a strong woman, and that she actually is going on this righteous journey on her own free will to somehow circumvent Mephisto ever coming back. And I guarantee you the next time we see her, she's going to be a battle-hardened, one-armed, badass fucking female warrior.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. With eye abilities or some Japanese anime bullshit.
Gun, no big deal.
Yeah, some bullshit. You know, I guarantee you that's what's going to happen. Everyone's thinking, oh, she's going to be the host for Mephisto. I'm just going to be like, nah, dude. She's going to be the guardian of Mephisto's gay fucking prison.
Yeah. It could, I don't know. I'm at a point with the game story where I think it could go in a good direction if Blizzard wants to, but it could also go in a devastatingly bad one. So it's a coin flip for me on the expansion pack storyline, which you know is coming. This game broke records. It sold big time.
You know, okay, I totally believe that, but you know what? I hear that every time something comes out. There's just more and more people playing games,
that is true.
You know. So it's like when people tell me they're like, oh, it's the best-selling Diablo ever. I'm like, well, compared to what? Diablo 3 that came out more than 10 years ago? Or like the one that came out 10 years before that? I mean, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
The gaming base is only like quadrupled, you know, whatever. It's just gone up astronomically.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's even by like just overall standards, not just in terms of like previous Diablos. It seems like it sold a lot.
Yeah, so. This is also the first mainstream Diablo, I'd say. This is the first Diablo that isn't under the PC gaming. Like,
oh yeah, the marketing,
like stigma of like being in the PC. Because even when Diablo 3 launched,
PC gaming isn't nerdy anymore, dude. It's totally cool. You can be a cool guy and be a PC
for
gamer
sure.
Now. Yeah.
Diablo 3 wasn't that long ago, but even then when it launched, like PC gaming, I mean, it was coming still out of that shell, but it still had that stigma.
Yeah. I remember getting arguments back in like the 2013s, 2012s with console gamers.
Yep, exactly.
Where, like, they would have like this thing where they thought you were beneath them. When, like, honestly, if it were a caste system, they would be beneath you because they have these shitty consoles that can't do like even close to the performance your PC can do. But at the time, there was just this like, oh, PC gamers they're all like nerds that play MMORPGs and can't get laid, and I play Call of Duty, bro. I shoot guns, bro. Like that's how it was for a long time. Guns, bro.
I've bought every single Call of Duty since I was 12.
Oh, fuck.
I lost my virginity in a Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 matchmaking lobby.
Voice chat enabled. Oh, well, yeah, the marketing was crazy for this game. There was such widespread high budget marketing. They took like skyscraper murals out in New York, billboards everywhere, fucking tattoo shops, fucking KFC. Like, so it was crazy, the marketing blitz behind this game.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
It's a great question because I don't really see why Blizzard just thought this is the one to go all in on, because Diablo used to be one of the more nerdy Blizzard properties back in the day. Like if there was a caste system in say like 2004 on Blizzard fan bases, the most nerdy probably would have been Diablo. It would have been the people on Diablo 2 fucking farming like Mephisto, like you're talking about, trying to get the best itemization and gems and do PvP and shit. Those were like the Uber nerds of the Blizzard cast. So it's the opposite of what sort of D4 has said, which is this is the mainstream, this is the everyman's Blizzard game. Quite a 180 in my opinion.
Yeah, Blizzard, every company is desperately trying to get new fans and new customers right now because now they pissed off the old ones, but they're also now, I forgot what I was watching, but it made me realize like almost everything we grew up with, like it doesn't matter if we're talking about games or movies or products that we just didn't used to, like toys, for instance. We don't play with toys anymore. It's just like your demographic of customers is always aging out. You're just not going to have them at some point. Like, so I think the gaming industry has really fucked up to the fact where they have for the past like 10 years, they have alienated their existing customers, and now they're quickly approaching aging out. Like a lot of people our age just don't even play games anymore. That's just, and now they have a more of an excuse. Like I've even thought about it's gone through my head where it's like, why do I even waste time with like 90% of these games anymore? Because like I just don't enjoy them. They have themes that are like reoccurring that I always seem to like latch onto. And I even tell myself, I'm like, it's just not even healthy to latch onto these like things. But at the same time, it's like I notice them immediately and it kills my mood to enjoy the thing that I used to love. So
that's exactly why I to this day have not seen Rings of Power. And how big of a Lord of the Rings fan I am. I watched the original trilogy on repeat for like 6 years straight, dude.
For sure.
And fucking I have not watched 1 minute of that show because I know that it will fucking make me fuming mad the entire time and I just won't be able to enjoy it. I know it.
It took me a long time to realize that I could replace gaming with a different hobby. But I'm slowly getting there.
Now he has a closet full of air shotguns.
Full of air.
A real man's hobby.
Country road, take me home.
Getting back to D4, one of the things I really like about D4 is the boss battle design. Like they sort of took the best elements of World of Warcraft bosses and merged them into Diablo bosses. And a great example of that was fucking Astaroth. And then another one is Andariel. Andariel, I think, is my favorite boss in the entire game. What did you think about Andariel?
Sure. As far as vibe goes and just like uniqueness, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved everything about it. I loved how Andariel would just kind of disappear into the shadows like a fucking ninja. There were so many cool,
like a wraith, dude. She just like, it was dope.
Fuck yeah, dude. It was a great fight. There's a couple of great fights like that, but Andariel just sticks with me as being like just a great example of why this game's good combat wise. And I really do believe this game has the best Diablo combat. For all of its flaws, they're all mainly in the storyline, right? Butter. Yeah, like the music's really good too, man. There's a few zones where I just stopped for a second, started listening to the music.
Yeah,
there's some good fucking music in this game too.
Pretty solid stuff. I really wish they bring Matt Ullman back to do like a new take on the Tristram soundtrack.
Yeah,
like, I don't know why that hasn't. Maybe there's some bad blood. Maybe the guy's dead. I'm not sure. I don't know what's going on there, but
the Diablo North divorce was Bad Blood Central.
He's loyal to his boys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know the details. I just know that the Diablo North separation was one of the most dramatic in early PC gaming developer history. It's up there with the id Software shit with Carmack and Romano and all that. It's like up there with that in terms of sort of how dramatic it got. But Andariel ends chapter 4. I guess chapter 4 was really short, right? Because then like you get into Act 5 really quick after that. The game gets really fast at Act 4.
Well, yeah, I think 4, 5, and 6 are all really short.
4, 5, and 6
3
are the
is
same.
really long.
Yeah. 3 is long. I mean, 1 and 3 are the longest, yeah, I would say. But yeah, I love all the bosses at the end of the game are really good too. I love Duriel.
Yeah, seeing Duriel pop up was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Elias was one of the weaker ones, I would say, but it was still interesting. It just kind of felt weightless. It didn't have.
I was honestly disappointed in Lilith.
You were.
She seemed like I mean, out of like I was just expecting more. Like Diablo 3 kind of spoiled me in the way they like made bosses happen. Like I was
they were more like God of War in Diablo 3.
Yeah, there's a lot of theatrics to them, like you entering their zone and like the zone changing around them and like other stuff like that. And I just felt like I was expecting a little bit of that with Lilith. I guess a lot kind of was, but not. Maybe it's just because I was whooping so much ass that it just happened so fast. I couldn't appreciate it.
No, I don't think so, dude. I think it was a conscious decision. Diablo 4 feels to me like a marriage of Diablo 1 and 2. And most of the Diablo 1 elements are sort of tone and ambiance, color scheme, vibe, like lots of meta stuff. Have Diablo 1 themes. Then like when you look at the combat and the structure, it has more Diablo 2 in terms of that. But what you're noticing with the way bosses are designed is one of the few mechanical Diablo 1 decisions they made, because that's how Diablo 1 was. Even like when you got to the final boss, Diablo, there was no like anything. You just got to a room, it was just like you found the butcher. Same thing. You just get to a room, there's Diablo, and he starts going after you. I feel like this was sort of a nod to the Diablo 1 style, like getting rid of the theatrics.
Yeah, but you know, Diablo also had more of like a horror element to it, where the way the darkness encroached around your camera view constantly. You didn't really have a perspective like you did with other Diablos that kind of made you feel safer because you saw further out. So like when you ran into the bosses in Diablo 1, it really was oh shit, it's the boss. You know, whereas it's not even really possible to have that in any of the Diablos going forward from there, just because of how they made the game.
Yeah, definitely.
I was talking about that with Alex like a couple days ago. Like it surprised me how no one has tried to just copy what Diablo 1 did. Make a short, sweet ARPG with an awesome storyline. You know, maybe 12 different sets of armor you can collect, a couple classes, and that's it. You know, like I'd buy it because the conversation started from the fact, because I remembered that how you got your skills in Diablo 1 were from the books, the tomes, and it's funny how like they totally abandoned that.
I know, and that's one of my favorite things about D1.
Yeah, dude, and it's a cool idea that I think still could happen. Like they could modernize it a little bit, but I think the RNG factor of build, like how your character gets built, is cool. You know, like every character you roll is kind of just on the whim of the books that fall out of enemies.
Yeah. The thing with D1 is that it is sort of one of the last men in for a previous generation of games. D2 was one of the first men in the next generation of games. Like there was this shift where video games used to be designed vertically. But then as soon as sort of these consoles came out that let you make 3D graphics that were kind of more horizontal in nature, games started to spread out. Instead of like going kind of through a vertical slice of levels and shit, you're kind of just spreading outward. And that's what you see with Diablo 1. Diablo 1 is a perfect example of that. You have your town. Your level is the church in the town. Next level, underneath the church in the same town. Next level, underneath that, catacombs in the same town. Underneath, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was how games were sort of just designed on a meta level back then, because the technology and sort of the way people program back then was different. Open world is sort of it's like a genetic change to the human genome that's for video games. It has slowly taken over the genome. You know what I'm saying? It started a long time ago, and we're only now seeing the full evolution of it, how it's changed video games, where you have games like Elden Ring that are just so so horizontal. And like a game like Elden Ring would never be like that if it was made in the 90s. Never.
No. You'd have a clear-cut path through that gigantic-ass map. And the other 90% wouldn't be accessible.
Yeah, Diablo 2 was like developed right when games were starting to spread their wings in that way, and Diablo 3 was like right when open world was really becoming like totally what every game was. If you think about it, Diablo 3 kind of ushered in the era of open world dominance in the video game industry.
I mean, trying to think, like,
not that Diablo 3 was open world. Maybe I'm not saying that correctly. It's just a coincidence, but Diablo 3 came out in like, what, 2013?
I mean, technically the first open world game is fucking Final Fantasy, dog.
Well, that's not. No.
That's world map, dog.
World maps is not open
Traverse
world. I will die
the world,
on that hill.
dude.
I will die. I will. My blood will feed the tree of liberty. Okay.
Yeah, it's hard to think about like who really got it going first.
Yeah, well, just
I want to go back in time and burn them all, though.
Yeah, there's something to like that design philosophy. There's something to it, because when games get too horizontal and there's nothing beneath the surface, it's exactly that. You start to have this creeping effect where every game you play feels the same and there's nothing beneath the surface, literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
You kind of need this element of like, oh, there's something secret hidden underneath this thing and it leads to like, I don't know really how to describe it, but it's
that's what made Bungie great. That's why Bungie was so loved for so long. They were one of those developers out there where everyone knew there were secrets to their games that would be found years and years afterwards.
Yeah.
You know? That definitely is a fuel factor.
So Lilith, I guess just finishing our talk on Lilith, I liked Lilith a lot, but I will say that I don't like the way that it gives you a checkpoint in the boss fight. So I got, I beat the phase 1, and then you go to phase 2 Lilith. And by the way, I love phase 2 Lilith, where she becomes like the creature version of herself.
It's like Mephisto.
Yeah, that was fucking awesome. I loved that shit. Now, the first time I fought her, I died on phase 2 right when I was about to kill her. Like, literally a couple more hits and she would have died. And then I died. I'm like, fuck. And then, I continue, and it starts me at the phase 2. And I'm sitting there like, okay, did I pick easy mode of this game? Like, why would you put a check mode? Like, it just totally invalidated the experience. Like, I immediately one-shot Lilith on the second try because I started on phase 2, and it just cheapened the experience so hard.
I'd expect that for tier 1, but when I same thing. I was on tier 2, and it was just, that seemed super coddling, like they were just holding your hand.
I hate it, dude. It's like I'm
it's
not
the
a
final
gatekeeper.
boss. Come on.
Yeah, I'm not trying to gatekeep here. I'm okay with the game having a story mode. I'm okay with every game having a story mode. Okay, whatever. You can have your. But why would you put these like cheaty sort of coddling effects into the hard difficulty? Why would it be in the one you specifically picked?
They don't actually care about the challenge or competition in a game anymore. It's all about buying in, completing what you paid for, and then buying more to play endgame. More. They could give a fuck if you think the boss was hard enough. They made the boss. They did their end of the deal.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Well, it's disheartening, and it's a theme in all modern games. It's not just Diablo 4. There's so many games I play where I pick hard mode, and then in the middle of hard mode,
Yeah.
it's like, hey, we think you made a mistake picking hard. Do you want us to help you and cheat? It's like, no,
Yeah.
dude. Fuck
Funny thing
you.
is hard mode is old normal mode. It's funny how it's like
Exactly.
shifted. Like when I play hard mode in a game, I'm like, this feels like normal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially with Resident. Did you play Resident Evil 4 remake yet?
No, I have
Wait
not.
till you do that, dude. You're gonna like put it on not professional mode's the one you have to unlock, but like I think it's hardcore or something.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, it was not that hard.
Yeah.
I feel like people need to be a little bit more genuine with their word choice. Like if you give a mode and it's called hardcore, like come on.
Yeah.
I'm expecting a little bit of a challenge.
I expect hardcore mode from Duke Nukem 3D, motherfucker.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
Like
expecting.
people are afraid to like make games where people quit and have to walk back to them. And I'm here standing thinking, well, that's what makes a great game, isn't it? Is it like, am I crazy? Or do you just want to like steamroll through a game and just check it out, like put it like a book you read on a shelf? You're just like, yep, cool.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, at what point does this just become a movie? And we've been having this conversation for a really long time in the gaming industry, like ever since Blizzard started doing movie clips in their fucking games. And people are like, well, are we eventually going to just become movies? It's like, okay,
I guess we did.
then why the fuck? You got to think of it like this. It's like, if we're just going to become movies, then what are we? Like, what are you talking about right now? You got to
Yeah.
be what you are. And if you're becoming something else, then you were never anything to begin with. It sort of just like kills everything. Like the video game industry just dies. It's past erased in this. Oh, we were just trying to figure out over 30 years that we wanted to be movies.
Well,
Okay.
it's funny you bring this up. I think it's not the gaming industry wanted to become movies. I think it's that movies is a dying industry, and the money and the powers that were in that industry have slowly taken over the gaming industry, and they're trying to apply their knowledge and money making power schemes to the gaming industry. And we've seen that happen. I mean, I'm trying to knock games like LA Noir and stuff that like in Heavy Rain that first started this big cinematic push for like Uncanny Valley, lifelike cutscenes and choices and quick action cutscenes and dialogue choices and stuff like that. You know, I think ever since those games were pretty short lived, there hasn't been, I think, much since then. But nonetheless, their impact was pretty huge. Where all of a sudden games need to be heavily narratively driven. Like all of a sudden you couldn't just have. I mean, look at God of War 3 compared to God of War PS4.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, look
like,
at God of War 1
great.
compared to God of War 3. Like, God of
Yeah.
War 3 was crazy narratively driven compared to 1.
It was at the time, yeah, it was actually pretty crazy to think about. You're like, this is over the top, but it wasn't even close to what we got now, where it's so character centric, you know, like, and actually on the character itself instead of back in when gaming was in quote unquote the golden era. You can say they were better, or you just got more value out of them and you wanted to play them more. It was on the player to put, you know, stock and value into the character.
Yeah.
You know, like if like for Cloud, for instance, in Final Fantasy VII, you like had to imagine what he was going to say in dialogue scenes. You know, you had your own idea of who Cloud Strife was, or Surge was from Chrono Cross, or Dart was from Legend. Well, no, actually, I think Legend Green.
You kind of projected your own ide into it. That's
the
idea,
for sure.
Which is a role-playing game. Hello.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like now all games are so narratively driven that it's yoinked that from the player and is actually starting to shape all these characters and giving you, well, not just giving you, but almost making you have a choice on whether they're good or bad, you know? Like, because if it's a bad story, it's a bad character now. Whereas, I don't know where I'm going at with that last part, but like nonetheless, it's just games are so narratively driven now that you're forced to you're hyper focused on bad storytelling now.
Mm-hmm.
You're just, it's like they shove the narrative in your face so much because you can't escape to the gameplay in most instances anymore, that you're just like, God damn, why do these characters all suck? And I'm sure if you go back to the 90s, you could do the same thing. You're like, all these characters are shallow and suck and they have no depth, but you were like, but I was so focused on the game loop back then that I didn't give a fuck. I can't say that about this new game.
Well, there was
the
a lot of
gameplay
brevity.
loop is over.
There was way more brevity back then with characters. Like today, like you're saturated with bad dialogue with some of these characters where even if they were a bad character in say 1996, there's like 10% of the amount of dialogue. There's way less of it and there's more brevity and there's way more action. So like you said, you're not focusing on that. You're focusing on the game. So you kind of forget.
Yeah. The problem. It's a problem.
It is a problem. But I thought the story overall was decent, but it had just some really bad missteps. Like if you just changed a couple small things, this could have been a great fucking storyline, but
for sure
they fucked up a few things pretty bad.
I think it was better than 3.
Oh, way better. Yeah, I'll say right now, this is a way better Diablo than 3 in every way.
And I mean that just from a storyline. I mean, it's better than Diablo 3 in almost I think every aspect, to be honest. But just from a storyline, it has a far superior storyline than Diablo 3.
Yeah. Diablo 3's storyline was mostly nonsense. It was pretty much crap.
Well, it's kind of just it was a really shoehorned storyline where they were just like
a filler arc.
We're gonna make a female warrior. Like they took the idea. What's her name? Leah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Leah, who just ends up, who is the daughter of the warrior from Diablo 1.
Mm-hmm.
And
who Nero feels like a continuation of a little bit.
Kind of, for sure. A little bit, definitely. They can't escape their own repeated ideas.
Yep.
It's like Trent Reznor said, a copy of a copy of a copy. Just keeps happening.
You know what else he said recently is the current climate of the culture isn't ready for new Nine Inch Nails music. And I was like, yep, you're absolutely right about that, Trent. Good call. Good fucking call, Trent Reznor.
He said that?
Fuck yeah, he did. And he was really cold about it, too. It wasn't like some joke. He's fucking dead serious.
He's like, you've all been naughty. You don't deserve Nine Inch Nails.
All right, well, before we wrap this thing up, just, I guess quickly go over Endgame. We kind of talked about the Hell Scars or whatever those things are called, where the
Hell Tides,
where they just the zone's taken over by hell, and they'll act like, oh, it's like it becomes hell. Not really. Like it just kind of gives it like a red tint and replaces the enemies. It's not like the zone actually becomes hell. People acted like that initially to me, and when I actually got to one, I was really disappointed. The whole system feels weird too. Like you just gather these shards to open chests, and the chests almost always drop junk. Didn't really feel worth it. The other thing was the tree, which, by the way, quickly, that tree is one of the coolest parts of the game's storyline, in my opinion. I don't know how you feel. I forget what the tree's called, but with just the hanging heads on it, I loved that part of the storyline. That was great.
Yeah, it was a nice touch that Elias is one of the heads that talks to you at the end game.
Yeah. But the end game of the tree, where you just go to some zone and do some daily quests, that's some bullshit. Like it almost always resolves in junk. The only actual effective way I found to level in end game was doing nightmare dungeons. But even then, it felt like slow, and I heard that it got nerfed right before I got to end game, and it used to be good. So take that as you will, but right now it just feels like the end game feels super slow. And then when you combine that with the fact these characters are temporary for each season, why the fuck are you making it so slow then? Let us fucking grind, get the shit done, and then do a new character next. Why are you like it makes no sense.
The seasons would make more, the way they're doing them would make more sense if every single dungeon in the game was unique and memorable, but they're not. So it's like, not only are you going to have to rinse and repeat a whole bunch of generic ass funkin' dungeons that have literally the exact same bosses in them, but you're gonna have to do it again and again and again and again. That just seems crazy. It's like, oh, they're green this time. Oh, they're red this time. They're blue. They have more health. They're lightning based this time. They got different minions, or we put this one in that area this time. Could you tell? No. Spoiler alert, I can fucking read into the future. None of us will be able to tell. All right.
Yeah. It's like the end game is all of the end game design of an MMORPG, but without the rewards. It has all the grind aspects of an MMORPG end game, but it has none of the rewarding aspects of it. It makes no sense to me. And then you combine that with what we're talking about with the temporary nature of the seasonal characters. It's just like, holy shit, this is a recipe for high drop off, high turnover rate. I guarantee you, after the first season is over, there's going to be a cliff the player population falls off of, unless the new content they do is just really good, which I'm skeptical of right now at this point.
Well, if it's anything short of fucking StarCraft 3 or Warcraft 4, then it's going to suck.
Yeah. And on that note, Broadcaster, as you know, in the Crack Cellar, we have an official patented Mr. Satan rating system that we use on all of our reviews here within the cellar. Today, we're going to be assigning a rank to Diablo 4. What do you think here? Where's it at?
Giving it an Al Pacino.
Shit.
I'm going to give it an old B. Gaming's just not what it used to be, kids. All right. Let me tell you. Let me tell you something. All right? I mean, you can spend $80, $100, more even. You still won't be happy with Diablo 4 in the end. I will say that. You might be temporarily happy with Diablo 4. You know, you might spend the money. You might say, wow, what an experience. Lorath reminds me of Deckard Cain. Wow. I'm so happy right now. That first part where those people that I helped fucking drugged me and put me in a church and fed me mushrooms. Pretty cool. Kind of starts to fall off a cliff after that. I'd almost say like that was the pinnacle for me of the whole game.
The very beginning of it is the pinnacle of the story. That's a great observation to make.
And it was. So, you know, and I just like I'm just here to tell you, kids, it doesn't get better.
But it gets back up there a few times close. I'll say
there are moments, but $80 base entry worth? No. $100? Fuck no. Worth having to
it feels like a $40 game, honestly.
Especially with the fact that they're forcing a lot of people out with this whole seasonal approach. They know for damn sure they're about to see like at least a 50% cutoff of players, at least. So that's kind of a very deceptive way, you know, of making people buy into a quote unquote long-term game in a very short way.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, if I didn't have the battle pass already given to me with the initial purchase of the game I made, I probably wouldn't be doing any seasonal content. I don't think I would be. I think I'd just wait for the next expansion pack to come out in like 2 years or whatever, where fucking Narelle Mephisto shows up and shows us the future is female once again.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised with the seasons that they're going to season out characters, classes.
Oh, that
I can already
go full Destiny. Destiny 2
for sure. I can totally.
They're gonna vaulted content
this year. Oh, the Crusader from D3's open this season. The Paladin from D2 this season. Yeah, that's exactly what it's gonna be too. It's gonna be gotcha member berries, dude. Like, oh, you can be the Amazonian from D2 or.
We've added Wart's Leg this season.
Yeah, exactly. Wart's Leg quest. Because they have the power to do that now.
They do.
Says they do actually have the power to do things like that, but they're never as cool as we're talking about.
No, because some CEO boardroom immediately kills any potential it has and, you know, sacrifices at the altar of extreme monetization tactics. That's just how it goes now. It sucks, but
Yeah.
It's the world we live in. There's no going back. But I'm going to give this one a Peter Stormare. I think it's really good. I think the storyline has some problems, especially towards the end. A couple of times, there's a few moments that we talked about already where it could have just been way better if you just had a little bit more thought put behind where it was going. But not bad, not bad. Story was good, better than D3, not as good as D2, not as good as D1. Gameplay, best gameplay of any Diablo, period, in my opinion. Say what you want about the story, but the gameplay was on point. Coming from a sorcerer, all my alts only made it to like level 20 because I eventually realized these characters were pointless and I just stopped.
That Sorcerer's OP.
Sorcerer is fucking, it feels so good to play Sorcerer, dude. Like when you get the right build, you're like a walking nuclear bomb. Just going
yep.
It's fucking awesome.
Especially when you play with nerf barbarians now, they're just like trying to catch up while you're just annihilating everything as you're walking forward.
Yeah. And I will give them credit. There is no pay to win monetization yet, as of right now. Who knows what the future holds, but as of right now, you cannot buy your way through this game power-wise in any way. So they did hold on to that promise for now. I just think they did a lot of the right things, man. The tone is great. I love the music is great. Everything is just really good. The mounts were surprisingly well implemented. I like them more than I liked them in Lost Ark. So I don't know. It's just a great game with a couple of really bad writers that kind of stunk up the place in a few spots.
I don't think it's bad writers. I think it's a world agenda.
And on that note, we'll close out Bilderberg 2024. See you there.
Listen, folks, they're trying to depopulate us.